Who or what is the Wound Man, one of the latest additions to the Batman's Rogues Gallery? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So there's a limited Batman series going on right now called Dark Patterns. It's written by Dan Waters and penciled by Hayden Sherman. The series is divided into standalone 3-part stories, all taking place earlier in Batman's career and focusing heavily on detective work. So yeah, it's very similar to the old Legends of the Dark Knight series, if you're familiar with that comic. The first arc of the series is titled We Are the Wounded and features our video's titular character. In the story, Batman and Gordon are investigating yet another murder case. Same old in Gotham City. Well, not quite. This murder is especially gruesome as the victim appears to have been slowly tortured to death in a very intricate fashion. It was a deed clearly done by someone knowledgeable about anatomy, as each wound was inflicted to cause the maximum amount of pain. It's not the first case either, it's the third victim done away in such a fashion. Batman obviously has a new serial killer on his hands, and an especially nasty one at that. Anyway, Batman goes after whom he suspects is the next intended target of the killer, and he turns out to be right. He arrives just in the nick of time to confronting a hideous monstrosity covered in pins, nails, and other sharp objects. He's found his killer. Batman quickly realizes that this is one perpetrator that's gonna be hard to beat. You see, all the sharp objects on his body are placed dangerously close to vital areas. One punch from Batman and he'll drive a screw or something right into a major artery, killing the dude. Batman can't touch him without breaking his one holy rule. Because of this, the grotesque thing is able to flee the scene. Later, back home in the Batcave, Bruce explains to Alfred about the Wound Man, an old medical diagram from European medieval times. It was used by old-timey doctors as a manual over potential injuries and diseases, and their respective cures and treatments. This bizarre new killer reminds Bruce of the ancient drawing, and he thus dubs him the Wound Man. After doing some investigating, the Dark Knight detective realizes that the first victim is the clue, a crooked lawyer named Francis Oakley. Apparently Oakley worked for Ace Chemicals, run by Christopher Sionis. Yes, Sionis, presumably related to Roman Sionis aka Black Mask. Anyway, that part is not important. The important part is that Ace Chemicals dumped toxic waste on an acre of land on the outskirts of Gotham. This land was then later sold to the Gotham City Council for real cheap, and upon it a town was built, a town dubbed Greenfields. Among the people who moved to this town were Dr. Jessup Hartnell and his wife. Greenfields was intended to be idyllic suburbia, but instead turned into a bizarre hell. You see, you shouldn't really build a town on a toxic waste dump or on Native American burial grounds. I think we've all learned that from endless 80s horror movies. Naturally, the denizens of Greenfields were quickly affected by the chemicals permeating the area. Among the chemicals dumped on the land was an experimental nerve agent called cryoxin. The effect this drug had on the citizens could be described as both a curse and a blessing. You see, what it did was remove people's ability to physically feel anything. That includes pain. For many, that would be a great thing, but not for Dr. Hartnell and his wife, as she was unable to feel her own body set ablaze as their house accidentally caught fire. Dr. Hartnell was away when the tragedy happened, and when he returned and witnessed it all, he naturally fell into deep despair. In this shocked state, he desperately tried to make himself feel something again, but he couldn't, not even pain. But he tried his very best, turning his body into a canvas of terror in the process. He now became the Wound Man as we know him. Before this horrible tragedy struck, Hartnell had been fighting the city and Ace Chemicals over the effects the town's toxic waste had on people. But he was stopped at every turn by Ace Chemicals' lawyer Francis Oakley. You're now beginning to see the picture, aren't you? Yes, the Doctor's crusade for justice turned into a bloody quest for revenge. After killing the lawyer, the wound man stole documents from his office, documents which pertained lists of other people whose lives had been destroyed by Mr. Francis Oakley. So, in his deranged state of mind, the wound man figured it a great idea to go after them as well, torture them to death just like he did with the lawyer. You see, in his crazy mind, he's only helping them feel something again, which he is still unable to do. In the end, Christopher Sionis, CEO of Ace Chemicals, decides to act and goes after the wound man. A deranged, murderous monster on the loose who knows all your dirty secrets is not very good for business after all. Sionis figures it's best to play it safe and just get rid of the good doctor before he falls into the hands of the GCPD. Well, the wound man is not as easy to hold as Sionis thought, and a scuffle ensues. Batman shows up just in time to witness the aftermath of it, and at least prevent Sionis from finishing the doctor off. And that's where our story ends. The wound man's reign of terror is over, and Sionis' only punishment is an aching shoulder courtesy of the Dark Knight. Well, what were you expecting? A happy ending in a Batman comic? This is Gotham City, baby. It's just the way it goes. As for what happens with the wound man, I don't know. He's still alive at the end of the story, and I guess most likely hauled off to Arkham Asylum later. Will he return again? Who's to say? I wouldn't mind seeing him one more time. He poses a pretty interesting conundrum for Batman. How do you defeat a guy you can't even touch too roughly without killing him? It's an interesting dilemma for Batman that challenges his sacred no-kill rule. I feel like this story didn't really do enough with that concept though. I mean, it's only really a problem during their first encounter. The wound man attacks Batman and he has no idea how to respond back. He can't hit him back. Hell, just by blocking too hard he might accidentally kill him. But then by the second encounter, Batman has it all figured out already. He uses knockout gas to subdue the wound man, rendering him unconscious. This way Batman can handle him with care without any resistance. Smart, and of course the obvious way to go. But once Batman realizes that, the threat is pretty much over. The dilemma is gone. The wound man has no purpose anymore. I know this is not a character with too much longevity to him, but I would have liked to seen the dilemma dragged out a little bit longer. It was solved too quickly. Besides, the way Batman handles the wound man after gassing him is portrayed kinda sloppily. I mean, he just throws him over his shoulder and drags him around. Shouldn't that kill him? I would have liked for that whole process to have been portrayed as more difficult. Just getting the dude to the Batmobile without touching any of his spikes should be a chore. I mean, if you're gonna go for this concept, you might as well go all the way. I guess it might have come off as too comedic. And trust me, there's no comedy in this grim tale. I don't know, it's a great character with a fascinating gimmick. Maybe it could have been handled differently, maybe it couldn't. Either way, the wound man is a rare case of a modern Batman villain that I actually like. He's got a freaky and unique design, an interesting gimmick that challenges Batman's core values, a tragic backstory in the vein of animated series rogues, and some heavy horror vibes. Plus, he also taught me about the wound man, which I had never heard of before. Who knew a Batman comic book could teach you about history? What do you think about this new rogue? Did you read the comic? Do you want to see the wound man again? Let me know in the comments.